like, I know what's happening, but I'm not going to tell you that we don't need to see a doctor because the real reason I'm not getting pregnant is because I'm hiding and taking my birth control pills. Hello, sir, what? This could end not so well if I try to leave. There were different files with names of different girls. I had a sex tape. Is this what happened to these women who left? The house was also bugged. It was tracking me. I had to get rid of all my social media. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Shanice and I go by Blooming Shan, blooming.shan on Instagram. So go ahead and follow me, and Blooming Shan on TikTok. I'm so grateful to have you here. And if you have not yet subscribed, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, like, share with your friends, and leave a comment. You would have seen from the title what I'm going into this week. This is another story time. So let's go back to a couple of years ago. I met this guy and he fell in love so fast. And now I know that there's nothing wrong with people showing emotions early, but the way he was doing it, now I would not fall for it. But he was the do it big guy. And so even after wooing me and whatever, I fell all deep in love. We eventually got together, and even while we were together, I remember our first Valentine's Day together, and he went out and he got me a life-size bear. Life-size, didn't even know what to do with it, where to put it. He got me the biggest container of chocolate that he could find in the store, and he got me something. Oh, he got me roses, a lot of roses. And of course, listen, I was weak in the knees. Like, this is love. He's showing out. And apart from that, he was very emotional, very affectionate. The kisses, the I love yous, the kiss on the forehead, the kiss on the hand, the whole Prince Charming. And I felt like, oh my God, I hit the jackpot. So we eventually got in deep. And then I started to see some things that I was kind of iffy about. But again, he was doing things big. He was, oh, the I love yous every day, the I cannot see my life without you. And at that time, I was like, oh my God, he needs me. Red flag. There was this night that we went out. We went out to a dance. I think it was the same Valentine. We went out and, you know, I dressed up really nice. I looked really cute. And there were guys looking at me, you know. A few of them said something and he was ready to leave. And he was so angry. When I say he was mad, he was so mad. And I was kind of like, you know, why are you acting out? But again, that was a red flag. But yeah, what do I know? We ended up living together, and I could not go to the store without him. I could not go anywhere. I remember one night I went to the hair salon. It was a rainy evening, and obviously I would have been there really late. I was getting a sew-in, and he brought me there. So by the time we got to the location, it started raining really heavily. And so I went in, and while I was there, like, an hour or so passed, and there's this guy in the salon that he looks out and he's like, that vehicle been out there a while. So he's describing it and like, is anyone getting picked up? Who's that person? So when he described the vehicle, I'm like, yeah, I know it. So I get up and I look, he's still out there. He's waiting in the rain. And this was a college campus, so she had a lot of people there. It was one person, and I remember I was there for like 5 hours, and he stayed there in the rain. It rained most of the time when he was there, and he waited in the rain. Mind you, home was like 10 minutes away, so he could have easily left and came back to get me, but no. I mean, this was our entire relationship. At first, I thought it was cute, you know, that he wanted to be everywhere with me. But after a while, I felt like really, really drained. Like, I felt like I was in prison. And I can remember even there's this other time where he brought me to the mall, and I said to him, can you just wait here? I wanted to get something. I wanted to get it on my own. I'm like, can you just wait here? And he's like, okay. And I'm like, all right, so I'll be at this store. I went to the store and I didn't get what I wanted. So I left. I went to another store. While I'm in this other store, he calls me up. Oh, I thought you said you were going to that store. I'm like, where are you? He's like, No, you said you were going to that store. That's how far it went, right? And so we started to argue because now I started to feel like a caged bird. And the arguments got more frequent and they got worse every time. And now I felt like, okay, this is not working out. He would come, the same love bombing and he would cry and whatever. And so it got to a point where he kept telling me that he wanted to have a child with me. Now, luckily, I was smart enough to realize that this child would have been the trap. And so every time he brought it up, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure, but not right now. And he's like, oh, why not right now? And so I was taking birth control. He did not know that I was taking pills. And ladies, disclaimer right here, like, just putting it out here, this is an ad, right? Be responsible for your own reproductive organs as much as you can. You are in control. You can do what is necessary. You know what to do. And if you know and you feel it in your bones that this is going to pose a problem, do what you have to do to prevent it. He was so adamant about wanting a child. So I would get the birth control pills and I would hide them under the bathroom sink because I just knew that the day was going to come when this child would be used as a weapon. And so I decided, not going to happen. And so I was taking the pills every morning. I would get up, go to brush my teeth, and I would sneak and take my birth control pills. And so he was kind of concerned, like, what's happening? There's nothing happening there. There was this time that he told me we were going out. I realized when we pulled up to the location that we were going to my doctor's appointment. This man booked a doctor's appointment for me to find out why I was not giving him a child, to find out what was wrong with me. Now, if that wasn't like the sign, I don't know what was. But again, I was clearly not paying attention. He brought me there just to see, what was happening. And I'm listening like, I know what's happening, but I'm not going to tell you that we don't need to see a doctor because the real reason I'm not getting pregnant is because I'm hiding and taking my birth control pills. Hello, sir, what? No. And so it got to the point where that was putting an even bigger strain because he's expecting this baby. I know there will be no baby because I'm ensuring there is none. And I knew right about there that it was time for me to get out. But by then I started to see signs that, all right, there's probably some mental illness here. He used to leave for work. So he would leave at, say, 7 o'clock, dressed for work. And this man would be back home at random times during the day. So 10 o'clock, he'd be pulling up. Oh, I just brought you something. At 11 o'clock, he's pulling up. He's supposed to be at work 45 minutes away. So at this point, I don't even know if he was going to work, if he was taking time off, if he was driving back and forth. I have no idea what was happening there. But all I know is there was no way of telling when he would be back. And so I started to see signs that, all right, this could end not so well if I tried to leave. So I started to look around, snoop around a bit. And I remember I was on the phone with my friend one day and I said, listen, I know there's something going on. I would go to his laptop while he would be on it. And the minute I got there, he would shut it down real quick. And I was like, okay. I knew there was something that I needed to see. So one night he was using his laptop and I paid attention to when he opened it up. I got the code and I was ready to get in there. So he went to work and I called my friend up and I'm like, listen, I'm searching that laptop today. I want to know what's in it. What's this big secret? What is he hiding? And so I said to her, listen, I'm going to lock all the doors and I'm going to go through the laptop. And I think there was a part of the house that I wanted to search. And I said, just listen, if you hear anything, call the police department. And so I went into his laptop. I needed to do that, but I should not have done that. I went into the laptop and there were different files with names of different girls. And when I opened the files, I'm like, what is going on here? What's with all these different women? And I opened up the first file, and this man had a sex tape with this girl. And I said, okay. Opened another one. There were nude pictures. Another one. Every single file I opened had something in it that could ruin somebody's life, pretty much. And so now my heart is racing out of my chest, because I'm like, if there's a file here on every girl, where is my file? So now I need to find my file, and I'm scrolling and I don't see a file. So I'm like, okay, I either do not have a file yet, or my file is hidden because I'm the current victim. So that's when I said to myself, wait, is this what happened to these women who left? Because that's what I started thinking, like, is he gathering this kind of thing so that when you could not take it anymore and try to leave, then he would blackmail you or whatever the case is. So now I was like, okay, I definitely need to get out. So I searched, I tried to ensure that everything went back to how they were, to not, not trigger him, whatever. I did take a picture before I moved into the space, and so I was able to put it back exactly how it was. And so after finding those files, it only made me more curious. I wanted to know more. I wanted to see what else was there. And so I started to search the house, and I found things in the house that I didn't know was there. Like, for example, I didn't know that there were the number in the house. They were. And when I think about it right now, I'm like, man, God is good. I stopped sleeping. At that time, more and more things became clear to me. He started acting out more. I think he kind of sensed that I was trying to leave, and so I would not sleep. I remember going 3 days with no sleep at night because now I am watching him. I started thinking of ways to escape, and even then, it never dawned on me that that was any form of abuse. I didn't realize that it was. And then that's when the arguments really got out of hand, and that's where the verbal abuse started. I didn't consider it verbal abuse at the time because I never saw myself as a victim. And so even the things that were said, they were things said to kind of keep me stuck, instill a little fear here and there. Like I said, I never saw it as any form of abuse. I just realized, listen, I need to get out of here. This is not working out for me. I no longer felt safe. And so I started planning how to leave. And I remember reaching out to a friend of his wife. And I explained to her what was happening. And she wasn't at all shocked. So I'm like, okay, so you've probably seen this before. Could have warned me, but I do understand why people sometimes want to stay out of things, especially if they're fearful of the person involved. And so I spoke to her. She came and she picked me up one day, and we said, all right, we're going to go out and have lunch and, talk. So I told him that's who I was going with. I guess he was afraid that she would tell me stuff, because why am I sitting in a sports bar with this woman, and he walks in and goes to the back and tries to hide himself, I guess, to watch us? She brought it to my attention, like, okay, don't look now, but he's here.
You gotta be kidding me.
He's there. And it was more and more things like this. I had a big argument. She came to pick me up. I was over at her house, and she's like, you can cool out here for a little bit. And next thing you know, he's there. He comes, he's acting out, and she's like, Shanice, I don't want to have this to deal with. But at first I was mad at her, but I realized afterward that this woman must have really been afraid. She's probably seen it before. She's probably heard from her husband how he was, and so she was fearful. So now I do understand how I was far away from home. I was in another country. So, hey, going back home just like that wasn't going to be easy. And this went on for a little while I planned in my head how I'm going to get out of the situation. And my friend was right there with me every day. We were talking about ways how to get out. I later realized that the house was also bugged, and so I had to be really careful what we said, how we said it, so I would get out the house. That's another thing. I wanted to work. He did not want me to work. So whenever I tried to get a job, that was a problem. Somehow he was able to sabotage that. So this man really wanted to keep me as a prisoner in the house. And so I would walk out to a nearby store, talk to my friend on the phone, and we were planning and plotting. And so the time came, and it was one Memorial weekend. And so my friend and I had discussed before, I'm going to tell him that I'm coming to see you. And so I told him, and he's like, oh yeah, sure, you can go see her. I'll take you there. We'll fly there, and I'll drive you there in the morning. You spend some time with her. I'll pick you back up, and we stay at the hotel. I'm like, no, that's not the same. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go visit her like daily. I want to spend time with her, and girl time, talk, whatever. He was not buying it. He was not buying it. He wanted to be right there. And he's like, okay, so, all right, so maybe we can stay at the hotel, and then she can come to the hotel, and then we can all, no, we cannot all. And so I was able to convince him. It took some convincing though. And then by that time, I would have realized that, all right, I'm going to have to leave everything behind, because if I'm going to be able to sell him on a 2-day weekend, I would not be able to sell him on a week or 2 weeks to have too many stuff. I remember I was packing my bag to go spend time with her, and he was right there with me. He was like, oh, why don't you take this? Oh, why are you taking that? Oh, you don't need that much of that. He was right there with me, packing my bag to run away from him. He helped me pack to run away and didn't even know it. The time came, I ended up convincing him again to allow me to just get a bus. So I said, listen, I want to experience the bus. I've never been on a bus here. Let me just take the bus. And he's like, oh, well, if that's the case, I can drive you there. I'm like, no, I want to do this for me, by myself. And so I was able to convince him. So the night before I was to leave, he got up and he's like, I don't feel comfortable about this. I feel like I should come. Now he's planning to come on the bus with me. Oh, at this time, ladies, you have to do what you have to do. And when you are in survival mode, you do what is necessary. That night, I did what was necessary to distract that man, to show him that, listen, I'm going to miss you. I made him dinner. Of course, I made him a really nice dinner. I'm like, listen, I'm going to miss you. It's going to be 2 days. I cannot wait to see you. I cannot wait to be back. And I did what I needed to do. Just enough to distract him, to throw him off, to make him think of what life will be when I come back after 2 days. Can you imagine having to do that for a 2-day weekend? And so I got him to agree reluctantly. The morning came that I was to leave, and he was still hesitant. He brought me to the bus stop and he waited. And right after the bus left, he sent me a text and he's like, I really feel like I need to drive behind this bus. And I'm like,
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man.
at that point, I'm already in the bus. I'm like, I felt like I had escaped somewhat, but I wasn't 100% sure. And so I called him and I'm like, babe, can you just allow me to miss you? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. I'm telling him this, knowing this is the end. I brought just enough clothing for 2 days, knowing that I would have to leave everything behind. I had what I needed to have, and that's it. A small carry-on suitcase. Tiny carry-on suitcase. That was it. I was willing to leave it all behind for my peace of mind, for my safety. And so when I left, he was texting me the entire way, and I was trying to keep him calm, and until I think like 5 hours in, I don't know what made him realize, I think maybe I'm not coming back. And so he picked up on that maybe this was it. And listen, if you think trying or planning to leave or discovering things was hard, talk about when he figured out that I was in fact not going to come back. I got to where I needed to be at night, and by morning he was like, which bus are you going to return on? And Eventually, I told him, listen, I am not coming back. This is it for me. I am out. I cannot take this anymore. And the threats started. This man and his friends threatened me. My best friend was involved in it because he knew her number, and so she was getting the threats, she was getting the phone calls. It was crazy. I remember one night she called the police because they were threatening her, and the police showed up to her house and she told them what was happening. And so the police took the phone and they were talking to him on it. Ladies like, hey, you can't do this, da 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 da. He threatened the police. This man threatened the police. It was at that time that she said to my friend, hey, listen, tell your friend to go to the police department ASAP. This is not a man that she should be taking lightly. And for the first time, I realized that, okay, I'm probably in some trouble here. And so I went to the police department and I was explaining to them what was happening. I was showing them the text message, and he said to me, I remember the guy said, listen, can I have your devices? And find out this man was tracking me the entire time. So even while he was always away, or probably always away, pretending as if he did not know where I was, he knew where I was because he was tracking me. In the threats that he was sending and his friends were sending, they pretended as if they didn't know where I was, they didn't know where to find me. And I never forgot when that officer looked at me and he said, I'm happy you made it out. Usually when it gets to this point, the women leave, but in a body bag. For the first time, I realized how crazy the situation was. I realized that, okay, I was really in an abusive situation. I was able to call it what it was, because even when I went and the police said, report domestic abuse, I'm like, I'm not a victim, I'm not being abused. But when the police said that to me, I think that was the first time I cried. It's like the reality hit me that you survived. And he said to me, this is just the beginning. He's like, listen, based on what I see, who we're dealing with here, that you have to get a restraining order, you have to make these things known. I was trying to lay low. I was scared out of my mind. I remember I lost so much weight because I was so fearful that as a matter of fact, I was threatened that I would never know where was coming from, but I would just walk out randomly and I could not even sleep well, because every time I closed my eyes, I was being attacked. I was going out and I was getting hit in the... He was military, and so his friends, his colleagues who were threatening me were also military men. So of course, at this point I realized, okay, this is not something that you can play with. I went to court, did get the restraining order. The judge did realize how bad it was. I remember he was putting certain posts on Facebook, I guess as bait to get me back, or for someone to let him know where I was, because by then I had gotten rid of the devices and I was a place where I wasn't easily accessible, and so now he needed to know more. It was so crazy. Like, even at the courthouse, they had to help me file the documents with another address, like a mailbox, so that he would not get my address when he was served. We had to go through so much. My friend had to, for the first time, I know you'll be watching this, just know that I love you so very much. She talks about it all the time. For the first time in her life, she had to raise her right hand, place it on the Bible, and swear in court, because of course she had to be a witness to what was happening over time. And I just remember that being such a dark place in my life. I had my daughter, I had my mother, I had to stay away from them because there was this fear that if I tried to go where they were, then that would be bringing danger to them. I had to get rid of all my social media. There were a lot of people who just realized I went ghost. They didn't even know why I went MIA. I had to, the court ordered me, as a matter of fact, to change all my numbers. My email was being spammed daily with the threats, even while the case was in court. Even after the restraining order, he did not come to court because the military protected him. I guess he had some attorney from there, and Even the day of court, they had to manipulate the date so that he would think I was there another day. Of course, the risk of something happening to me when I showed up or when I was leaving. It got really dark when I realized how bad it was. At first, I kind of took it light. I'm like, okay, you're crazy, I'm leaving. But when it all came out in court, and when I listened to this man blatant disregard for the law, even when the judge tried to get him in place, he was very aggressive and he was not having it. By this point, he had one aim, and the one aim was, I need to go home. His friends were saying the same thing, telling me, you need to go home, telling my friend, listen, you need to tell her to go home. And I survived all of that. I don't know where I found the strength. I know that there were people, my friend, my mom was there encouraging me, and I made it out. So, it's funny, I always say to people, if I should go into the details of this story, if I wrote a book, people would think, okay, you got this from Lifetime. No, I didn't. I survived. I don't know where he is right now. I don't know what's happening with him. But what I do know is I made it. And so sometimes when you hear people talk about experiences that they've had, you don't know, like, it was so hard for me to even admit, even when the restraining order was granted and it said domestic abuse, it was still like, yeah. I just thought I'd share that, how I survived. Thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you on the next episode, and enjoy all the other content. If you have not seen anything yet, go back, of course, see the videos before this, and I look forward to having you here with me. Bye.